everyone, welcome back. I'm YK Swedish Whiskey Girl and today I'm here with 3 new makes and we are going to compare them all. So what I have here, we are going to start with the Kingsbarns new make, then we're going to move on to Lindores Abbey and then we're going to finish with Clydeside Distillery's new make. All of these are bottled at 63.5% ABV and of course completely unaged. And I've of course reviewed these all individually when I was lifting distilleries in my Support Your Local series of videos, but I thought it would be fun to compare them all because I think with new make it can be really tricky to kind of pick out specific aromas because it has such a strong character on its own, and most of us are of course used to drinking the aged product where you have the influence of the oak giving a lot of character as well. So let's start with the Kingsbarns. And Kingsbarns is of course a distillery that already has their own whiskey out on the market as well, and these other two were starting distilling in 2017 I believe, so in 2020 this year they are having an aged product that they can call whiskey, which is exciting. But let's start by having a look on the nose on all of them. Kingsbarns really has like a floral banana note to it. It doesn't stand out as too vegetal on the nose at first kind of approach. Let's have a little look on the Lindores. This one feels darker, like murkier in a way, like more autumny. But almost a bit more like plums. Like it has a sweet fruitiness, but Kingsbarns immediately makes me think of tropical. And the Lindores is more a darker fruitiness. A little bit more autumnal and a little bit more murky perhaps. And let's have a little look on the Clydeside. This one definitely has more of that kind of vegetal note to it, but it's like a vegetal note that reminds me of rum agricole, but also mixed with kind of a citrus vibe, like a lime. Like it also has kind of a doughy note, like almost a yeasty note, which like lime bread perhaps, if that's such a thing. A bit more like a jungle, because it has that grassy dampness to it. Let's have a quick nose again. More banana, more floral is the Kingsbarns, definitely. But tropical, more like banana, more than kind of pineapple, I would say. And the Lindores is a little bit more murky. It has quite a dense sweetness to it, which makes me think of raisins. Okay, let's have a sip. I just get a bit caught in my thoughts sometimes when things really intrigue me. But let's have a sip on the Kingsbarns Sláinte. More of a vegetal note on the palate. It still has some of those kind of tropical fruitiness to them. It still feels quite fresh. And a little bit malty. The malt kind of comes on the finish more. Let's compare it to the Lindores. Lindores almost seems slightly less spicy, like the Kingsbarns, because of the alcohol mostly I believe, has this big kind of spiciness, but the Lindores feels a little bit calmer. Quite fruity still. Almost maybe a little bit sweeter on the Lindores as well. And let's compare those two to the Clydeside. Clydeside definitely has the most kind of rum agricole feel to it, so it's a little bit of that kind of earthy, grassy note to it. But it's also the one that feels more citrusy, like the pith of a lime with a bit of that kind of lime zestiness to it as well. It's really difficult to taste much after trying 3 new makes at 63%, so I'm going to add a fair amount of water to each of them, almost 50-50, just to make sure that I can actually taste some more aromas. So let's have a little pour of water in each of them. Sometimes adding a lot of water to whiskey or to spirits in general can be very interesting, because you really kind of break it down and you really get to have a look at the aromas when they're stripped back a bit. Kingsbarns first again. Start having a look on the nose. Ooh. Now it's a bit more like a wood polish, and definitely some of those tropical fruits are still there. But they're so much sweeter. Now it's almost more pineapple than banana. Let's have a look on the Lindores. The Lindores is still that kind of murkier, darker plum almost, but it's like fruits in autumn. Like it's very, very enjoyable. I don't know, maybe I'm romanticizing autumn at the moment because I just look forward to having dark evenings, be able to put candles on the tables and yeah, cook something that's quite musty and yeah. Definitely like a very kind of, almost like a berry sweetness. And underneath there's like grass in the evening, because it's just a little bit darker, and Clydeside. So fresh. I would say out of these 3, the Clydeside feels the freshest, because I think those citrus notes make it feel very fresh, whereas the tropical note makes it feel slightly denser in the Kingsbarns, and that kind of darker musty note in the Lindores makes it seem a little bit more landed. Yeah, like a bready note and citrus on the Clydeside. Let's have a final sip. We're going to start with the Kingsbarns with the water. The spiciness of the alcohol has taken down quite a lot, but it's also become a little bit more grassy. Now the tropical fruitiness kind of hiding behind the grassiness. Yeah, it leaves quite a fresh grassy, like freshly cut grassy note on the finish. Let's have a taste of the Lindores. So much easier to be able to swirl them around your mouth when they don't sit at 63% anymore. This one feels more floral now, like more like a perfume. So it has this kind of murky note to it, but like it's more murky grass, like grass in the evening of the new make notes. On the nose it's still that kind of berry sweetness. And a bit of that berry fruitiness still on the palate, because it's quite soft. And the Clydeside. More fruity, I would say, on the Clydeside. more apples and pears perhaps. And the maltiness is quite subdued, and the grassiness is also kind of calmed down a bit. Interesting. If I had to choose one as my favourite right now and right here, I'd probably choose the Lindores, because I just love that autumnal darkness to it. But they're all really interesting, and it's so fascinating to be able to see the differences between them. I would of course love to hear if you've tried any of these new makes. Have you tried another new make perhaps as well? There's of course so many distillers out there. Not all of them bottle their own new make, but some do, and it is very fascinating seeing what they're like, especially if you can compare it to an aged product. And of course, if you like what I'm doing here on YouTube and my other social channels, I would be absolutely over the moon if you consider using my affiliate links the next time you're shopping with either Master Malt, the Whisky Exchange, or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. All the information is in the description here below, as well as links to my Teespring shop, my website, my Instagram, or my Patreon if you're curious about that. As always, a massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon. You guys are amazing, and I'm so happy you want to continue to support me on my whisky journey. But I hope you've all had an absolutely wonderful day. Sláinte Skål.